Okay, Triclops SD60Ms, SD90 Max, SD75Ms, SD70Ms, and now X-Conrail SD80 Max from CSX. I don't get paid enough to get all these engines. Hey guys, it's Ravenhawk6910 reporting once again. It's late September 2014 and it's time for another layout blog video. So starting off, sorry that the blog video is a little late this month, but I've been having a lot of projects coming in that I'm working on, and I've just started a new job, so that's been eating up most of my time. But I have been working on a lot of stuff and I wanted to get most of it presentable before I shot the blog video, so that's why it's a little late this time. So let's jump right into it. The first item I want to show you guys is this Athearn Genesis SD70. This is an item that was supposed to be shown in the last blog video, but there was a controversy over the ownership of the engine when I bought it. So I'm not going to go into big details, but let's just say the person who I bought it from had stolen it from another person. So I got in contact with the original owner and we worked out a deal to get the engine back. And he, in turn, helped me get an SD70 to replace the one that had been stolen from him initially. So he sent it to me. He really great guy, and I got it in and we worked the deal out to get his back to him, so it's all fine. So I took this SD70 and rebuilt it from the ground up. It was in pretty rough shape when I got it, but I was able to do a lot of repairs to it, and I've completely painted it up in Norfolk Southern colors. This represents one of the X-Conrail SD70s. And as you can kind of see there around the ditch lights, some of the Conrail blue is still there. I decided to leave it like that just to make it look like some of the old paint was fading through. Now, this engine is not 100% complete, as you can tell. It still has only one number board on the front, and the rear number boards have not been painted yet. Also, the frame striping along the front has not been completed because of the lack of front handrails, which I wanted to wait until I completed that to install those. Also, the rear handrails have not been installed because I don't have a set of those either. However, this is still good enough to be ran by my standards anyways. So I had finished up what I could on it and got it into service out here on the layout, and I'm really happy with it. And I really want to give a big shout out to Eric West for helping both of us really to get through this commotion with this shady person who is selling the trains. I'm not going to tell anyone who it is to name names, but a bunch of you guys who watch my videos probably already know who it is anyways. So, but yeah. So the 2566 is just a straight repaint of a regular Athearn Genesis SD70. And this is the first one I've actually ever owned of any of these. So this is a pretty cool engine. And it is pulling some new pieces of rolling stock that I've gotten this past month as well. This Norfolk Southern boxcar that's immediately behind the engine also came from Eric. This was a kind of a little extra thing he threw in with the SD70, and it's a really, really nice car. It has a little bit of light weathering on it, and it has an NS number on it. Not quite sure if that's the original or not, but still, it's a really nice car. Next is this Walthers Goldline 89-foot Southern Railway flat car. This was a purchase from Trainmasters. Been wanting to get one of these for a long time, but finally was able to come across one in the Southern colors. So that will make a great addition to my intermodal train. And last but not least is this Athearn ready-to-run Rio Grande gondola that I picked up in a trade with my friend Ashley Rodriguez. You may recall some other items that I've picked up from her in the past. So once again, thank you, Ashley, for this. You always are the go-to person for the cool Western stuff. The next couple of items I want to show are not trains, but they're for the train room. And they both came from the same group of people. The first off is this little miniature tripod with flexible legs. This one is really nice to mount the camera to and just do straight shots without having to grab my big one out of the back of the car. So I will be using this in the layout room whenever I'm filming my blog videos or whatever else I need to use my video camera for. Then the much larger item is right here. This is a big wooden display case with a glass door on it, and it's pretty nice here. I've just been test fitting it to see what all I can fit inside of it. So you see there's the DD40, the Blue Goose, mostly some of my older items in there, and then Little River 126 is also in there. And New York Central 1855 will also be up there as well, inside next to it. And I've also included some various pins that I've gotten over the years, as well as a piece of Union Pacific dining car china from my memorabilia collection. So I really appreciate the gift from the Hunt family of this. This is really neat stuff for the train room. Now, I do not have this mounted, clearly, as you can see. However, it is going to go on one of the walls next to the drawer where I keep my freight cars, which is pretty much the last barren wall in the whole area. But it'll make a nice piece to hold some of my older, hard to find stuff, if you will. One project that was completed this month is the water tender that I've been working on for the 4501. This is the Southern Railway WT51 water tender. Which was one of the ones made out of a Mikado tender, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But the WT51 was in service with many of the steam engines during the program, and it actually is still around today as the water tender that serves the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. For those of you that have seen the 630 on the main line during the 21st Century Steam program, this is the water tender that you see behind it. Now, my version of the WT51, I had several options that I could do for it in terms of paint, but I decided to go with just a flat black, which is how it appeared on a 1993 trip with the 4501. So that's just how I decided to do it. If I wanted to, I could letter it for TVRM, but right now that's not really a high priority, and it looks just fine as it is, so that's just how I'm going to keep it. Another locomotive that's been receiving a lot of attention this past month is Amtrak P42 number 146. Or should I say the engine formerly known as the 146. This is an Athearn ready-to-run P42. This is actually the one that I got at Folkestone last year, and I've been doing some upgrades to the paint work on it to make it current to the modern version of the Phase 5 paint scheme. The reason I say that is because the bottom part of the engine was in the first version of the Phase 5, what I call Phase 5A, which had a large blue stripe along the bottom, and there were multiple smaller Amtrak logos around the engine. The current version is not like that. The current version is mostly silver along the bottom, with the exception of the gray at the bottom of the fuel tank, which I have not added here yet, and a small red pinstripe which runs along the bottom. Now what I did is, if you may recall in my last blog video, I had already had the engine taped up and I primed the bottom. I got that done, I got the silver paint done, So this engine is almost ready to go. I just need to correct the bottom of the fuel tank skirting there to get it gray, like I just said. And then once that's finished, I'll be moving on to numbers and striping. This unit I decided to renumber, and most likely this unit will be renumbered to either 835 or 813, which is actually a P40. More specifically, these are the P40s that today are used in Amtrak Autotrain service. As you may recall, I had talked in my last blog video about possibly wanting to model the Autotrain, so I figured I had a P42 here. Why not go ahead and just renumber it? And besides, I've only got one 800 series P42, and it's more or less a special unit and it doesn't run. So that's why I don't use it, because it's a hard to find model and I don't run it that much. So that's what the plan is for the 146 at this time. Also, in addition to renumbering the P42, once I get the decals in for that, I'll finally be able to finish up my F40 cabbage car, which I've been working on for several years. As you may recall, way back in my very first blog video I ever made at the beginning of the year, I just got the correct blue paint on this unit. What I may do is I may tape that section up and give it a fresh coat of silver just to make sure everything is even. And then once I order the decals for my P42, I will use some of them on this F40. Now this one is probably going to be the 9200, which was the very first F40 ever built. So keep an eye out for this, and it'll be really good to finally get this engine finished after, oh god, when did I even start this project on this engine? 2011 maybe? Had to be 11. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, but it will be great to finally get it finished. And when I get the gray paint for the fuel skirting on the P42, I may take the trucks and the fuel tank off of this unit and paint them gray as well. That way they'll match the Phase 5 scheme as well. So that's another change that might happen to this unit. One of many that has happened to this unit over the years. I'll go over this briefly since this was a topic I discussed in my last blog video, but as you can see, the 6910 is now looking a lot more like her SD60E counterpart. I've gone ahead and I've got the window frames installed on both sides, and I've also finished the giant air intake grills on the intercooler section. As you recall, last month I had a piece of sheet styrene on this side and on the other side here. What I did was I ordered a Details Associate SD50-2 radiator kit and cut the radiator section from the long hood in half to get the large ones for which are correct for the SD60E, and I was able to do that for both sides. And I also was able to save the scrap pieces to add the same bits to my GP59E, which I'll show you that when I get over to the workbench. But the 6910 is really looking good right now. It only needs a few more parts in order to be 100% complete, but I'm pretty happy with how this unit's come out. It's been a long haul over this year to get it detailed up nice, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now that I've got the new product stuff out of the way, I'm going to head on over to the workbench, but before I do, I want to show you this engine right here. As you may recall, this is my Norfolk Southern C40-8.5W that I've been working on. Now, I broke my own rules when I said that I was not going to decal this engine until the prototype came out of the Roanoke shops. But temptation got the best of me, and the prototype is not going to be out for a long time because they're having problems with, I think, something to do with the substructure on the battery box area. It is collapsing from the weight of the new cabs, which is terrible. So the real ones are probably not going to be in service until late next year, probably, knowing my luck. So I really didn't want to have this engine sitting around collecting dust. So I went ahead, bit the bullet, and started decaling it. And right now I've got all of the main logos plus the number boards installed, minus the numbers, obviously. Now, this engine is probably going to be finished up by next month. So keep an eye out for this. And even though, you know, it may not end up being prototypical to the real thing, in the end, I'm still pretty happy with it. It looks really nice. Now, the one issue I am going to have is the handrail on this side of the engine is actually different on the prototype. They actually install kind of like a Dash 9 style handrail to it, but I have no skills whatsoever in terms of bending handrails, and I'm just not interested in dealing with that. So I will likely just put the old Dash 8 handrail back on and be done with it. But other than that, I am extremely happy with how the 8500's coming out, and it'll be real nice to get it into service down here on the layout. Moving on over to the workbench, the first item I want to show off is my GP59E that I've been working on. As you may recall, I showed this engine off in my last blog video, but it was headless, for lack of a better term. However, the cab has just come in a few days ago, and this is a custom-built Admiral cab built by my friend Roland Smith, so I really do appreciate Roland for giving me this cab. So I've got the cab installed, and everything is pretty good in terms of it. I've also got the intercooler section completely finished off with the large air intake grills like that on the SD60E. And like I said, these were cut from the SD50-2 Details Associate kit. I don't remember what the part number is, so sorry guys. But the 4653 is really starting to come together nicely. Now, it still needs a lot of work done on it, and as you can see, it needs new hood doors, it needs a new blower, it needs a new brake wheel, and that's just on this side. On the other side, it still needs more hood doors, it needs various other modifications, it obviously needs handrails, it needs trucks, couplers, plow, MU cables, the works. So do not expect this engine to get off the workbench anytime soon. But it will eventually get going as time and money allows. So, and I will keep you guys up to date with it. However, I did want to show this to you guys. I really am impressed with this cab for this engine. Moving back to some of the Amtrak stuff that's in the process of being worked on right now, here's my Metroliner car that I talked about in the last blog video. Not too much has happened to it. Not too much has happened to it as of right now. However, I did get the silver paint applied since I got it for the P42. And really that's the only change I've done to it as of right now. I've got to wait to get the decals for it, and I am dreading doing the decals for this because I've never done a passenger car with the windows like this. So let's see what happens. But hopefully it'll turn out good. And like I said, this one's going to be the 9632, which is the cab car that I shot years and years ago in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Here's the photograph of the car that I based it off of, and this is a photo that was taken by my mom in Pennsylvania in Lancaster. And if you look to the left there, that is a very young and very skinny version of me holding a video camera videoing the I don't actually remember what the name of this passenger train was, but it was a Philadelphia to New York train. That's all I remember, and it stopped at Lancaster. Maybe some of you guys who Ralph Ann Up North can tell me the name of it. I don't remember what it is. Oh no. No, 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 no. Not another Admiral cab. Not another Admiral cab. I do not want a repeat of what happened last time. You won't. You won't, Sterling. Just don't think like that. And with that being said, this is my new Admiral cab that I'm working on. This time I'm going to keep the original battery boxes, and because the new designed Shapeways Admiral cab has a cutout so that way it can fit with the battery boxes from a unit that you're putting it on. So I went ahead and decided to go with that one instead of the old version that I used, which you had to add the battery box doors yourself with Canon parts. So this should be a much easier and simpler build than my first Admiral cab. Plus I've learned quite a bit since I built that first one at the beginning part of the year. And this one, yes, will be the identical number to the one that I was trying to build before, the 3310. So fingers crossed, everyone. We're gonna make this work one way or another, and I'm gonna get 2 Admiral cabs in service on the layout, the GP59E and the 3310. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. And so that pretty much wraps up everything that's happened this past month on the layout. Now, there are a few more projects waiting in the wings, but I'm waiting for some stuff to come in before I can start those. But right now, before I do anything else, I am going to list off the locomotive projects that I hope to have completed at some point or another. And this strictly has to do with the new locomotives that NS has been acquiring recently. I have no idea if any of you guys know or not, but Norfolk Southern has been buying a bunch of locomotives used to help with the power shortage that's going on right now. Many of them from Western railroads. So the locomotives that I am planning on modeling, from this new batch, will include a Triclops SD60M, a Santa Fe Warbonnet SD75M, a New York Susquehanna and Western SD70M, a Union Pacific SD90 Mac, an ex-BNSF SD40-2 with the spray paint numbers, possibly one of the ex-CSX SD80 Macs, but I don't really know about that for sure. I'm gonna have to just see what funding allows. And that's it. Get basically one of each from each of these new used locomotives. Now, they are not all going to be in Norfolk Southern colors. Like the Warbonnet, I love the Warbonnet paint scheme so much that I am going to keep that one as is and give it the spray paint number board treatment that NS has done to some of their SD75s at least. There are 2 of them sitting up at Altoona right now in Warbonnet colors that are just waiting to get into the shop. So likely they will not go into service as Warbonnets. The SD60M, that one will get the horsehead paint scheme because the 6814 and the 6804, which are the 2 that have just gone into service, are in that paint scheme. And personally, I've wanted to see what a Triclops looks like in that scheme for a long time now. So yeah, I want to have a representation of that on the layout. The NYS&W unit, wouldn't a black version of that just be one of the lower 2500 series units? So for that reason, I am just going to get an Athearn Genesis NYS&W unit and keep it as is. Quite frankly, in terms of the people who have just smacked their heads against a brick wall for me making that statement, it's my railroad, my rules. That was weird. Anyways, and as for the SD40-2, that one will be just a Kato with the spray paint numbers done. And the SD90 Mac is going to be a rail power unit. That one is actually on the way as we speak. I'm waiting for it to come in the mail. So you will be seeing that next month in the next blog video. That one is going to get NS Black. So with that being said, I will have a sampling of all of these new units, at least, to represent in my fleet. Now, this does not mean that I am getting them all at once. For those of you who say, oh, he's just a guy who sits around and buys engines and doesn't do anything to his layout, let me remind you that number one, I can do what I want with my own money, and number two, working on locomotives is a tad easier than doing scenery, and number three, I really can't do any scenery on my layout right now because there's still a looming possibility that I might have to move in a few months. So I don't want to do anything right now that will involve me having to rip it all out and redo it again. It's not worth wasting the money over. I would much rather spend that hard-earned cash on locomotives and freight cars for the layout. So, and if you don't like it, again, my railroad, my rules, you people make me want to have a lobotomy. But with that being said, that's really all that's been going on for the past month, guys. There's really not too much more to report, so this is Ravenhawk 6910 signing off.